Hello lovely book dragons and welcome back to another video. Today we will be chatting about all the books that I plan to read in the month of June. Spoiler alert, it's a lot. So in the month of June, I have 2 weeks off and the third week of June is a short week for me. So I made an overly ambitious TBR that I'm probably not going to be able to finish, but I like to challenge myself, I just like to reach, what's that quote? Reach for the moon, you'll land among the stars, something like that. That's my life. I just set myself up, and then if I read 20 books, perfect. If I read 5, I'll also be happy. But I made a huge TBR and I wanted to share that one with you because I love buddy reads, and if there's a book that you would like to read with me, well, odds are I'm already buddy reading it, but you can just message me and we'll add you to the group. But yeah, without further ado, let's go and talk about the books. Quick disclaimer, I still wanted to say that if I'm going to be talking about second or third books in series, the synopsis that I will be giving you is for the first book in that series because I don't want to spoil the first book for you, obviously. First things first, let's talk about some books that I started in the month of April or May and that I wasn't able to finish and that were carryovers to the month of June. The very first book that I didn't manage to finish in the month of May was Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. Clay Cooper and his band were once the best of the best, the meanest, sturdiest, most feared crew of mercenaries this side of the Heartwild. Their glory days long past, the mercs have grown apart and grown old, fat, drunk, or a combination of the three. Then an ex-bandmate turns up at Clay's door with a plea for help. His daughter Rose is trapped in a city besieged by an enemy 100,000 strong and hungry for blood. Rescuing Rose is the kind of mission that only the very brave or the very stupid would sign up for. It's time to get the band back together for one last tour across the wild. Kings of the Wild is super fun and engaging, and I love the characters. It's super fast-paced. It is basically like a D&D campaign inspired by 80s rock band. So, I mean, how awesome does that sound? And this book is full of humor. It's super fun and super engaging, but the end is a tad bit predictable because you know how it ends if you know the title of the second book, and therefore the stakes were a bit low for me, and which is why I was never really excited to go back and to read it, but I will be finishing this in the month of June. The second book that's a carryover from the month of May, which I just couldn't finish because it was such a behemoth, was Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. Fitz is a royal bastard, cast out into the world with only his magical link with animals for solace and companionship. But when Fitz is adopted into the royal household, he must give up his old ways and learn a new life. Weaponry, scribing, courtly manners, and how to kill a man secretly. Meanwhile, raiders ravage the coast, leaving the people forged and soulless. As Fitz grows towards manhood, he will have to face his first terrifying mission, a task that poses as much a risk to himself as it does to his target. Fitz is a threat to the throne, but he may also be the key to the future of the kingdom. Assassin's Quest is the third and final book in the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb, which is a huge 16-book series comprised of, I think it's 3 trilogies and 1 quartet, if I'm not mistaken, and with one of my best buddy reading friends, with basically she's my parabatai Ruby from Pages Upon Pages Upon Pages. I think that's her Instagram. I will leave her Instagram down below. But we have decided that we were going to tackle the Realm of the Elderlings together this year, and we started, and I just need to finish Assassin's Quest and to be caught up with that first trilogy. As a natural sequel to Assassin's Quest, I will be reading Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. Wizard wood, a sentient wood, the most precious commodity in the world. Like many other legendary wares, it comes only from the Rain River wilds. But how can one trade with the Rain Wilders when only a live ship fashioned from wizardwood can negotiate the perilous waters of the Rain River? Rare and valuable, a live ship will quicken only when 3 members from successive generations have died on board. The live ship Vivacia is about to undergo a quickening as Althea Vestrit's father is carried on deck in his death throes. Althea waits for the ship that she loves more than anything else in the world to awaken, only to discover that the Vivacia has been signed away in her father's will to her brutal brother-in-law Kyle Haven. Others plot to win or steal a live ship. The Paragon, known by many as the Pariah, went mad, turned turtle and drowned his crew. Now he lies blind, lonely and broken on a deserted beach, but greedy men have designed to restore him, to sail the waters of the Rainwild River once more. Ship of Magic is the first book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, which is the second trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings. I know nothing about it except the synopsis that I just read you, and to be honest, that synopsis means absolutely nothing. But Ruby has already read it because Ruby is a reading machine, and so she already finished the book. She said it's fantastic, and I absolutely trust her. So I will just be reading that in the month of June, and hopefully catch up with her, and maybe start Mad Ship, which is the second book. But this is also like a 30-hour audiobook, so let's just keep our expectations a little bit more normal. Next up is a trilogy I absolutely want to finish in the month of June, which is also a buddy read with Ruby. We decided to tackle a lot of those big name fantasies this year, and one of them is the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, and this month I would like to finish the trilogy by reading Before They Are Hanged and Last Argument of Kings. Logan Ninefinger's infamous barbarian has finally run out of luck. Caught in one too many feuds, he's on the verge of becoming a dead barbarian, leaving nothing behind him but bad songs, dead friends, and a lot of happy enemies. Nobleman Captain Giselle Dan Luthar, dashing officer and paragon of selfishness, has nothing more dangerous in mind than fleecing his friends at cards and dreaming of glory in the fencing circle. But war is brewing, and on the battlefields of the frozen north, they fight by altogether bloodier rules. Inquisitor Glocta, cripple turned torturer, would like nothing better than to see Giselle come home in a box. But then Glocta hides everyone. Cutting treason out of the Union one confession at a time leaves little room for friendship. His latest trail of corpses may lead him right to the rotten heart of government if he can stay alive long enough to follow it. Enter the wizard, Bayaz, a bald old man with a terrible temper and a pathetic assistant. He could be the first of the Magi, he could be a spectacular fraud, but whatever he is, he's about to make the lives of Logan, Giselle, and Glocta a whole lot more difficult. Murderous conspiracies rise to the surface, old scores are ready to be settled, and the line between hero and villain is sharp enough to draw blood. The Blade itself is the first book in the series, and it was one of my all-time favorite books now. I read it in April. It's probably going to be in my top 3 of the year. It's just grimdark at its finest. I love the characters. I was hooked from page, I think, 5 after the prologue. The first chapter is when we meet Sendan Glocta, and Glocta stole my heart, and I love this book, and I just can't wait to know what happens in the 2 sequels and to finish off this trilogy. Next up is another buddy read, and I have to laugh when I think about this because my friend Deb and I, she's also on Instagram, I will leave her Instagram down below, we decided that we're going to read the Throne of Glass series this year. Now listen up, I read the Throne of Glass series when they were coming out back in the day, but I never finished the series. I still have, what's that book about Kale? I don't remember the name. I have that one and Kingdom of Ash left, but I just couldn't pick it back up because I didn't remember enough. So I'm going to be rereading the series this year with Deb, and we're going to be finishing it. She's already finished it, but I'm going to be finishing it. For her, it's just going to be a reread, and it's going to be fun. You know what? I want to test if these books that got me into fantasy, so I owe these books a lot. They got me into fantasy, but I want to see if they still live up to my hype from back in the day. I mean, we'll see. I am not rereading Throne of Glass because I reread that one in 2018. I had already planned on rereading the series back then, but I never did. So I'm starting it out with Crown of Midnight this month. I am already reading it. I'm 100 pages in, and I think that we're hoping to be able to read Assassin's Blade and maybe start Heir of Fire this month as well. After serving out a year of hard labor in the salt mines of Endovier for her crimes, 18-year-old assassin Selena Sardothian is dragged before the Crown Prince. Prince Dorian offers her freedom on one condition: she must act as his champion in a competition to find a new royal assassin. Her opponents are men, thieves and assassins and warriors from across the empire, each sponsored by a member of the king's council. If she beats her opponents in a series of eliminations, she'll serve the kingdom for 4 years and then be granted her freedom. Selena finds her training sessions with the captain of the guard Westfall challenging and exhilarating, but she's bored stiff by court life. Things get a little more interesting when the prince starts to show interest in her, but it's the gruff Captain Westfall who seems to understand her best. Then one of the other contestants turns up dead, quickly followed by another. Can Selena figure out who the killer is before she becomes a victim? As the young assassin investigates, her search leads her to discover a greater destiny than she could possibly have imagined. The next book I plan to read in the month of June is Time of Contempt by Andrzej Sapkowski. For over a century, humans, dwarves, gnomes, and elves have lived together in relative peace. But times have changed. The uneasy peace is over, and now the races are fighting once again. The only good elf, it seems, is a dead elf. Geralt of Rivia, the cunning assassin known as the Witcher, has been waiting for the birth of a prophesied child. This child has the power to change the world for good or for evil. As the threat of war hangs over the land and the child is hunted for her extraordinary powers, it will become Geralt's responsibility to protect them all, and the Witcher never accepts defeat. I decided to read the Witcher books starting last year when the show was coming out, and I am just slowly making my way through it. This is the second book in the novels from the series, but it's technically the fourth book in the series. Because if you don't know, the Witcher series has two books, which is Sword of Destiny and The Last Wish, and these two books are short story collections, and the first full-length novel is Blood of Elves, and Time of Contempt is the second one. And I'm really excited to continue on with this series and to continue following Geralt and Yennefer and Ciri, and I just can't wait. Next up on my TBR is The Library of the Unwritten. I am super excited about this book because I've heard amazing things about it, and it's about books in hell. I mean, what's not to like? Many years ago, Claire was named head librarian of the Unwritten Wing, a neutral space in hell where all the stories unfinished by their authors reside. Her job consists mainly of repairing and organizing books, but also of keeping an eye on restless stories that risk materializing as characters and escaping the library. When a hero escapes from his book and goes in search of his author, Claire must track and capture him with the help of former muse and current assistant Brevity and nervous demon Corioletto. But what should have been a simple retrieval goes horrifyingly wrong when the terrifyingly angelic Ramiel attacks them, convinced that they hold the Devil's Bible. The text of the Devil's Bible is a powerful weapon in the power struggle between heaven and hell, so it falls to the librarians to find a book with the power to reshape the boundaries between heaven, hell, and earth. Next up is The Starless Seat by Erin Morgenstern. I read her book, The Night Circus, a couple of years ago, and I loved it less than everybody else. It wasn't an all-time favorite, but I liked it enough that I really wanted to read The Starless Seat, and a book about books, a whimsical book about books, is just all I need. It's right up my alley, and I am planning on reading it this month. Zachary Ezra Rollins is a graduate student in Vermont when he discovers a mysterious book hidden in the stacks. As he turns the pages, entranced by tales of lovelorn prisoners, key collectors, and nameless acolytes, he reads something strange, a story from his own childhood. Bewildered by this inexplicable book and desperate to make sense of how his own life came to be recorded, Zachary uncovers a series of clues, a bee, a key, and a sword, that lead him to a masquerade party in New York, to a secret club, and through a doorway to an ancient library hidden far below the surface of the earth. What Zachary finds in this curious place is more than just a buried home for books and their guardians. It is a place of lost cities and seas, lovers who pass notes on the doors and across time, and of stories whispered by the dead. Zachary learns of those who have sacrificed much to protect this realm, relinquishing their sight and their tongues to preserve this archive, and also of those who are intent on its destruction. Together with Mirabel, a fierce pink-haired protector of the place, and Dorian, a handsome barefoot man with shifting alliances, Zachary travels the twisting tunnels, darkened stairwells, crowded ballrooms, and sweetly soaked shores of this magical world, discovering his purpose in both the mysterious book and in his own life. Next up is another buddy read, What's New? And that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I'm buddy reading this with Natasha and a bunch of other girls, and we're trying to catch up to Philippa and a few others to read the second book. But yeah, I basically already read this book, so I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say too much about it. But this is a buddy read that we're doing, and that I was really excited because it's completely out of my comfort zone. I basically only read fantasy, and yeah, now I'm trying murder mysteries. The case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singh. The police know he did it. Everyone in town knows he did it. But having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Pippa Fitzamobi isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as the topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? Another buddy read I'm going to be redoing in the month of June is for The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm super excited because I have never read The Lord of the Rings. And as such a fantasy lover that I am, I needed to do this. And I'm buddy reading this one with a friend that I met on a Discord channel. And we will be reading The Hobbit this month and then reading with a bunch of other people The Fellowship of the Ring in July. And it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited about this. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. Now recognized as a timeless classic, this introduction to the Hobbit Bilbo Baggins, the wizard Gandalf, Gollum, and the spectacular world of Middle-earth recounts the adventures of a reluctant hero, a powerful and dangerous ring, and the cruel dragon Smaug the Magnificent. And last, but certainly not least, is A Feast for Crows by George R. R. Martin. I mean, if you don't know Game of Thrones, I don't know how, but this is the fourth book in the series, and I read books 1, 2, and 3 2 years ago, and then after the show ended,
I am traumatized. How could you do that to us? Everything's fine.
Basically, after the show ended, History of Westeros, Aziz, he started a Valar reread, so all men must reread the series. And I wanted to reread the first 3 books, but then I just couldn't make myself do that. I was just hurting too much to go back. And I started it, but then I didn't finish. And I just thought, you know what? When they start A Feast for Crows, which is the next book I'm up to, I will start reading it with them. They started reading it in June, and therefore I will be reading the first chapters in June as well. This is about a reread that's going to be going until August, so you'll see A Feast for Crows in the next couple of videos, but yeah, I'm just going to be reading the weekly chapters for those. Long ago, in a time forgotten, a preternatural event threw the seasons out of balance. In a land where summers can last decades and winters a lifetime, trouble is brewing. The cold is returning, and in the frozen wastes to the north of Winterfell, sinister and supernatural forces are massing beyond the kingdom's protective wall. At the center of the conflict lie the Starks of Winterfell, a family as harsh and unyielding as the land they were born to, sweeping from a land of brutal cold to a distant summertime kingdom of Epicurean plenty. Here is a tale of lords and ladies, soldiers and sorcerers, assassins and bastards who come together in a time of grim omens. Here, an enigmatic band of warriors bear swords of no human metal, a tribe of fierce wildlings carry men off into madness. A cruel young dragon prince barters his sister to win back his throne, and a determined woman undertakes the most treacherous of journeys. Amidst plots and counterplots, tragedy and betrayal, victory and terror, the fate of the Starks, their allies and their enemies, hangs perilously in the balance as each endeavors to win the deadliest of conflicts, the Game of Thrones. So there you go, guys. That is my overly ambitious June TBR. I highly doubt that I will be able to finish all these books, but honestly, if I even just finish half of them, I will be super happy, because this year I'm trying to read 100 books. I've never done that before, and I thought this year, with quarantine, with having broken my leg, what better year to choose than this year? Problem is, I love fantasy, and a lot of these books are over 600 pages, or at least over 500 pages. But if I manage to read it, I'll be super happy, and if not, I'll still be happy with whatever I read. Let me know down below if there's a book you want to buddy read, and let me know what is your number 1 read that you're super excited about in the month of June. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're doing great. I hope that you read plenty of amazing books, and that I will see you again with our next video. Bye!